Well, the DA is gearing up for another bruising political contestation as the race is indeed on for the federal executive chair, which is the most crucial position in the country's main opposition party. At the same time, the DA says its national leader, that's Mmusi Maimane's future, is in the hands of the party's leadership. Former DA leader Tony Leon submitted a report to the party which looks at its challenges following the DA's poor performance in the May general elections. Well, the move comes days after Helen Zille also announced she's running for the party's Federal Council chairpersonship. Well, for more analysis, we're joined by leadership expert, that's Dr Mazwe Majola. Good afternoon, Doc. Always a pleasure having you on the SABC News Desk.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, Doctor, the game is indeed on at the DA, and with this strategic post up for grabs, what are some of the distinctive leadership qualities or skills that the successful candidate would need to possess, especially given the decline in performance we saw at the polls from the DA and the need, of course, to really garner some kind of cohesion within the party at this point?
Well, the DA will need a reconciler, will need someone who will, of course, a competent leader, but a courageous leader, because the DA is a very difficult organization to lead. So it really requires a courageous leader, bold leader, someone who will say it as it is. It requires someone who will know his story, because, you know, it's characterized by so many characters who are there ready to serve the different interests. It's more about leadership, it's about ideology. So it's a leader who must embrace liberalism, but also a leader who must future-oriented. You know, yes. South Africa is moving on. Yes. You cannot stuck in the past. Yes. The DA requires someone who will attract South Africans who wants to move on, but someone who will tackle the issues of race, the issues of the PE, the diversity, the affirmative action, and also, obviously, because it's a liberal organization, someone will espouse the liberalism. So you'll need that kind of a leader.
So, Doctor, on that point, is Helen Zille the right person for the job? She did get into hot water over her tweets recently, the ones on colonialism. And for many in the country, she's still seen as a very polarizing figure. She has gone up against Athol Trollip before, I understand, a few years ago when Tony Leon resigned from the position. She won the leadership of the party back then. Does she have what it takes to take the party forward, like you say?
She did very well during her phase. Remember, she took over in 2007 until 2015. Yes. When Maimane took over. But remember, you know, leadership and organizations evolve. You know, times are not the same. You know, we live in a volatile, uncertain, complex, or ever-evolving environment and culture. So you cannot say that you did well in 6 years ago and that will guarantee you doing well in 2020 or in 2021. Because remember, organizations are like human beings. Just like human beings, you know, there is a growth. Human beings, they grow. So organizations also grow. So, and as they grow, they will get sick sometimes, they will get tired, they will get healthy, they will get very well. So there will always be that, you know, ups and downs. It will not be a straightforward growth. So, and that is characterized by many different factors that are evolving in the environment.
Let's talk about Mr. Maimane for a moment. He's really looking to be fighting a battle on two fronts right now. How damaging are these allegations of the stain-off car and house, etc., for him? Of course, these allegations haven't been tested as yet. He's claiming it's a smear campaign, and politicians in our country, Doctor, do have this unique ability to bounce back from accusations of this nature. Will he live on to fight another day in his political career?
Clearly, he's faced with a relentless onslaught from within the party. So you can see that there is this, it's a battle of the DA, it's a scramble of leadership. You can see that the people really want to take over this DA. Maimane is unfortunately entangled within this. Clearly, his image and his reputation has been severely tainted with this Steenhof thing and his house and other issues as well. He may fight, because remember that he is a proponent of morality. He's the one who has been calling the leader, President Ramaphosa, to account, and as far as ethical leadership and morality is concerned. So now when these things come back to him, of course, he will be, his image will be tainted.
Now, some of the individuals or senior leaders that want Mr. Maimane out of office at this point were the very same people, Doctor, who are rallying around him and lobbying him and really elevating him to the position he holds today. The party understood back then they wanted a black man to lead the DA, all right? And for many South Africans, Mmusi Maimane hasn't changed from where they sit. Now, is it simply a case of the DA now realizing that it's been beating down the wrong track for all these years by thinking that the majority of South Africans, we simply go to the ballot and we vote for a person that resembles us in terms of skin color? Because it gives us a sense that they've greatly undermined the agency of the majority of South Africans who are not who are able to think independently, think critically, go out there, make their own free choices, and choices that are not only informed by race. We are not a nation that's obsessed with race and continually hooked on race. And what we want, what people out there want, are politicians who can do the job, men and women with integrity, and also those who can stand up and take accountability when things do go wrong sometimes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what is happening within the DA, this is very unfortunate. It's a display of white supremacy, of this superiority complex and I know that one can say we are generalizing, but of white superiority complex, of self-importance, when they see themselves better than the other
people
race,
of color,
so that whenever there's a black person who's taking over a certain position, somehow this person must be groomed or developed or overshadowed by a certain white person. As soon as this person emerges as a strong leader, and as a leader who's not, who won't be, taken for granted, and who's not weak, and then they'll always resist that, because they need someone they can control. And when Maimane took over, to some, especially mostly to white people within the white leaders within the party, they thought they found a black leader who will lead this organization, who will lure and attract as many black people as possible, so that the organization will carry on, but the organization who will gonna stuck in the past, so they want to move on, but they want to stuck in the past as well. So, Helen Zille supported Maimane, when they really clashed, it's when Maimane took a strong view against Helen Zille during her tweets and other, unpopular remarks.
And it does raise very natural questions now on what's going to be the status or the health of the working relationship between the two. Bazilla has in the past week come out and said that she is all fired up for the post and she's going to strongly support leadership.
Well, she says she's really considering to come and stabilize the organization and to put it on track. So you can see that when someone uses those words, it means that there is something wrong with the organization or the leadership. So she sees herself as someone who's coming to correct, as someone this superhuman leader or hero who's coming to clean up and for sure the DA under Maimane did not do well in terms of performing during the 2019 elections. But leadership are like, or rather organizations are like that, yes, there would like to be growth within the organization, but there are times when the organization will go down and there are times when the organization will go up. You just need to make sure that you check and analyze the factors.
Yes.
Other factors will be endogenous, other factors will be exogenous. So you cannot really pin down on one person and say this is the wrong person.
And you've just preempted the next point, because a lot has been said about those election results. But is it fair? Can we really take one election result and then draw serious political questions from that, purely on that result? Because in terms of numbers, the DA's loss wasn't the very worst in its history. I mean, in fact, nationally and in many provinces, they achieved their second best performance. So, I mean, one has to make the distinction between electoral performance and political performance. I mean, is it fair that one result at the polls counts so much against one person, Doctor?
Unfortunately, the DA has been a growing organization in the past. From Tony Leon, when Zille took over, it grew in 1999, it grew in 2014, it did well in 2016. So there was that expectation as well that under Maimane is going to grow. Right. So unfortunately, when it lost that about 22%, I guess, 2%, and then that is when people, they thought, no, we messed up. That is why it's very important to analyze that. What caused that? Yes, you like to see the growth all the time, but it's very important that when there is a lull of whatever kind, and then you sit back, you go to a drawing board, and then you analyze the factors that cause that.
Just on that point of its national growth, the DA for a long time, like you say, could boast of its national growth, being the only party that was continually growing in the country. But that growth has stalled for now, we see clearly, and that narrative is in tatters. Yeah. What needs to be done from a leadership perspective, very quickly, Doctor, so that they can reclaim some of that former glory, if you want to call it that?
What kind of a leader will answer a question, what kind of a DA we want, the future DA? What kind of an opposition party we want? Or what kind of a party that is in an organization in waiting, that we want to take over one day? How are we going to lure and attract South Africans? Remember that we are talking about the majority of South Africans, so that you can be able to win votes. You cannot only stack or focus on white minority. If you want to be a best party in South Africa, you've got to attract the black voters, and it's a reality. Unfortunately, the population, that's how it is in South Africa. So if you are going to really stuck into white minority ideas and interest at the expense of black majority and population, we are not going to make it. So unfortunately, the DA must answer that question. What kind of a DA we want? What kind of a leader we want, who's going to transform DA and make sure that it brings this populace that we want and make it a best organization, not only opposition, because you cannot fight to be an opposition forever. At some stage, I guess DA wants to be a governing party, and they need to face those questions.
Dr. Mazwe Majola, our leadership expert, thank you so much for your time on the SABC News Desk.
Thank you.